Hello everybody, I'm Ray, and as for the name, I love to read. If you're expecting a well-organized channel, this is not the place for you. It's pretty much chaos around here, very much ad hoc, but I like to talk about books. And today I'm going to be talking about The Shelf of Shame, which is not an actual shelf, it's more of a metaphysical shelf. But basically, this is a load of books that I am ashamed and guilty when I look at them because I realise, well, as you'll see, there are completely different reasons for that feeling with each book. So I'm going to do it as a top 10 countdown, the top 10 books that I have that when I look at them, I just feel guilty. And most of the reason is because I definitely should have read them by now. So books that, I was meant to read about 10 years ago. All right, so let's get started with number 10. So number 10, which is around here somewhere. I think I used some of them to prop up the camera and now I've lost them. Here we go. So A Day of Fallen Night by Samantha Shannon. Now, I absolutely adore Samantha Shannon, and The Priory of the Orange Tree is just a wonderful fantasy novel with lots going on. It's got some romance in there. It's, kind of, it's a definite chunkster, so you've got plenty of time for character development. I'm still a little bit, I'm still a little bit upset with her for, making certain killing off character decisions. But when I actually met her, I was only about halfway through the book, so I didn't get time to tell her that. But yeah, you know what you did. So the reason why A Day of Fallen Night is on my shelf of shame is because I just have too many copies of it. I often do this where I have more than one copy of a book, and in this case I actually have 4. Now, 3 of them in hardback and this lovely one in paperback. So the first one I got when it came out, because obviously really excited, loved Priory, so I got it straight away. Then I forgot to take it with me when I went to the signing event. And so I bought another one so that I could get it signed with my name in it. And then they released a special kind of edition of Priory and the prequel even, and I had to get my hands on that. So I've got a super fancy sprayed edge version, and then I decided that it was too big to hold up, so I got it in paperback, and I still haven't read it, but I'm going to read the paperback. That is on the top priorities list, and then I can stop feeling guilty and maybe pass on a couple of the ones that are excess, but I don't like to get rid of pretty books. Anyway, number 9, completely different reason. So you may have heard me talking about this before, but one of my favourite books of all time is a book called The Glass Books of the Dream Eaters by G.W. Dahlquist. Now this is a kind of action adventure, steampunk, Victoriana, bit sexy, bit of sci-fi. It's just an absolute brilliant book, right up my street. Again, far too big for its own good. So much going on, so many layers, great characters. I loved it, and I had to read it again actually before I read the second one, because there's 3 in the trilogy. And I reread it before I read the second one, and the second one was a disappointment. It's called The Dark Volume, and it started out all right, and then it was a real letdown. It didn't have the same amount of adrenaline, it didn't have the same amount of intrigue, and it was very, very samey, and it was quite confusing as to who was who and what was going on a lot of the time. And so I was very disappointed in it. And then I left it several years, and I didn't read the third one. And then I actually have recently reread both of them again. Still, first one's still really enjoyable. Second one's still a bit pants. So number 9 on my list is The Chemical Marriage, which is the third one in the series. And when one of your favourite books that you love so much has other books that may change your feelings about it, there is a reluctance to read it. And this is a hardback, very orange. Let me see when it came out, because this was a long time ago. 2012. So yeah, 12 years ago. I've had this for 12 years. I've been avoiding reading it for 12 years. It's time we put an end to this. Put me out of my misery once and for all, and find out if the third volume redeems itself or if it's a pile of poo. And I'm fully expecting it to be a pile of poo, hence why it's not been read yet. So that's number 9. All right, what did I have at number 8? On the shelf of shame. Yeah, so number 8 is Magician by Raymond D. Feist. And the reason why that's on my shelf of shame somewhere, probably at the back of one of these cupboards, is because it is one of my dad's favourite fantasy novels, and he's been trying to get me to read it since I was about 10. 10? Maybe a bit older. I'm not sure how appropriate it is. I haven't actually, like I say, I haven't actually read it. That's part of the problem. And I did start reading it when I was, a tween or, younger. And I remember very, very little about it. And yeah, he's read a load of books that I've recommended to him. So I think it's time that I, took the plunge and read one of his, although he keeps telling me that my favourite fantasy books are mediocre, so boo boo Ray's dad. But yeah, so Raymond D. Feist's Magician, he's absolutely certain I'll like it. It's one of those kind of fantasy coming of age high fantasy novels. And then coming in at number 7, it's one of my grandma's favourite reads. And again, my grandma's 93 at the moment. And for the last few years, I've known that this is one of hers that she recommends. I've read quite a lot of the books my grandma recommends. She's a fellow reader as well. And yeah, this is Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. And I bought a bumper book of the short novels of John Steinbeck. One of them being Of Mice and Men. And I haven't read it yet. So it's one of those that everyone talks of as being an absolute classic. It's one that's widely taught in schools. I think I may have had a little bit of a spoiler, but well, I'm not going to open my mouth now because, like I say, quite a lot of you might not have read it too. Someone wrote it on a meme, and there was a picture on Facebook at one point, ages way back when. Where someone had written what happens in the end on the first page, and yeah, thanks a bunch. Usually if something's being spoiled for me, it's by American Dad. They've ruined quite a few films for me over the years. But yes, I definitely need to get reading on that. It's not big, it's supposed to be incredible, and I need to get a move on, really. So yeah, and again, it's somewhere in one of these many cupboards. Righto, where are we? Number 6. Oh, I feel guilty every time I see this one. Oh. To Paradise by Hanya Yanagihara. A Little Life is one of my favourite books. I don't know why it's one of my favourite books, because it took me months and months and months to read it. It is an absolute misery fest. There were times when I just couldn't go near that book. I couldn't pick it up because it was just pain from start to finish. And then I went to see it on the stage in London, and it was incredible. I have no idea how those actors do that performance twice a day. It was so intense and such a privilege to see in person. And I bought this book at around that time, and obviously you can see it's in hardback, and it has since come out in paperback, and it's still on the shelf. And I don't know if this is because A Little Life wounded me so badly. I don't know if it's just because it's very long. I do intend to read To Paradise at some point. I'm sure it's going to be good. The author is just such a great writer. But I don't know. There's something about it that's keeping me keeping me away from it. So, going into top 5. Number 5 is this bad boy, The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. And it's another book that I've had in hardback for more than a decade that I really, really should have read by now, and there really aren't any excuses for it still being on the shelf. So yeah, this, along with Jonathan Franzen's third book. Oh, it's bad, I can't remember what it's called. It's somewhere in the room. It hasn't been read yet. Should have been read. I've got Haruki Murakami's Wind Pinball. Again, it should have been read. You buy them in hardback thinking, I cannot wait for this book to to be out. And then you leave it a decade, and the decade just flies by, and you still are no closer to having picked it up. And I've even got Birnam Wood by Eleanor Catton, and yeah, I probably should read this one first. I mean, it'll probably take another decade to read the next one. So yeah, that's number 5. Number 4, A Visit from the Goon Squad. Everyone says how amazing this is. Cult classic. It's supposed to be just a really cool book, and I've had it for ages, and I haven't read it yet. And I don't know why this one in particular. I think it's because it's a little bit more cult, a little bit more niche than most of the other kind of mainstream books that I haven't read yet. This is the one that's on kind of, slightly more edgy lists. I've read another book by Jennifer Egan and I really, really enjoyed it, but this is supposed to be her best one. And she's had another one recently out and everyone's saying it's not as good, but the fact that it kind of reminded everyone how good this is, and I feel like I need to be part of the party. It's a party I want to go to. I'm probably going to regret that. It might be terrible. We shall have to wait and see. So that's number 4. Number 3 is actually on the shelf behind me. On the corner there. It's ACOTAR. Oh, now I have a bit of a slightly different reason for thinking ACOTAR's on the shelf of shame. And my reason is I have merch. Now, Snag, who I buy a lot of tights from, did a collaboration with ACOTAR, and they produce tights and sweatshirts and things like that. And I get so excited whenever any of my favourite brands do collaborations, literary collaborations. I just get really, really excited. So I bought these cool looking jumpers and I've been walking around wearing them, and people sometimes stop me and say, oh, cool jumper. Yeah, really. Yeah. And I feel like such a fraud because I've no idea. I haven't read it yet. Might be terrible. So yeah, I'm a complete fraud. So yeah, that's on the shelf of shame for a completely different reason. I've heard mixed reviews about Sarah J Maas. I know lots of people who adore her. I know a lot of other people who think that she's a little bit not very good. I've seen some really funny rants on Goodreads, but I think I'll probably, I would guess I'm probably going to enjoy them. Do like fantasy, do like romance, do like a bit of spice. So I imagine I'm going to enjoy them. And if not, I've been walking around in a couple of years wearing a jumper, promoting something I've no idea about. That is actually really embarrassing if I think about it. I also have 2 necklaces because Tatty Divine, where I get a lot of kind of acrylic jewellery from, they did a collaboration with the Women's Prize. And there were 5 books that they chose to make little necklaces out of. And I got 2 of them. I got The Song of Achilles and the Book of Form and Emptiness, Ruth Ozeki and Madeline Miller. And I can't wear them because I haven't read the books yet. And actually one of the other books available was Piranesi, which I did like, but I presumed that I'd love the other two books better because, again, they've just got reputations for being special. So yeah, I'm really hoping I haven't wasted my money there, but I haven't been walking around wearing those at least. So that was number 3 books that I have been walking around with merch of that I haven't actually properly delved into. So number 2, Shelf of Shame, Frankenstein. I know, right? Call myself a book lover, call myself a sci-fi lover, and I haven't read Frankenstein, and it's only yay big, and it's oh, it's one of the few books that's on. It's one of the few books that's consistently on lists and that I haven't read. So really, no excuses. I need to read this year. Big Shelf of Shame, influential, epistolary. You know, really, really one that everybody agrees is good. And another thing that's bad is I read a book called The Monsters We Deserve by, I think it was by Marcus Sedgwick, and that's actually a book that I took the time to read, and it's about Frankenstein. But in the course of this book, which I thought was going to be a horror because it had a really great cover, it had like a really creepy kind of monster with kind of twiggy antlers and claws, and it just looked like a really cool creepy horror, and it had some really nice pictures in it. But in the course of this book, basically Mary Shelley asks this young male author to rewrite Frankenstein so everybody gets the point of it, and it just makes me mad. Like, it's absolutely tone deaf. So that made me mad, and I can't believe I wasted time on that when I could have been reading actual Frankenstein. So number 2, Shelf of Shame. Number one is basically a combination of 10 through 2. So it's a book that is on so many classics lists. It's pretty much kind of top 5 of most lists of books everybody should read in their lifetime. It's had enormous films made of it. Hugely popular. Everyone's forced to read it in schools. My sister hates it for that reason. And I've got more than one copy of it because they had a really nice exclusive version from LitJoy. So from that, can you guess what it is? I haven't read The Great Gatsby. Oh, I know. Everyone's supposed to have read The Great Gatsby. It's supposed to be a masterpiece. I have heard a few people say they don't like it, but that's usually because they were forced to read it at school. I haven't watched the film. And this cover, this version, this is a LitJoy version, and I mean, you can see why I caved in. This is the book sleeve. It's like a, and then beautiful cover, and I think it's illustrated as well. It's got gold edges, very Art Deco-y end papers, and yeah, so that is number 1 on my Shelf of Shame. I've been saying I'm going to read it for years. Haven't read it. Need to get it read. It's in pretty much every kind of books to read before you die list. I'm probably bigging it too much up to myself. But yeah, and look at that deco. That deco cover is just beautiful. I do have a slightly cruddier version of it somewhere in the house, but oh, this is the problem with being a book collector. It just gets out of hand. I'm sure the books breed when I'm not looking. Anyway, it's been a pleasure to talk you through my Shelf of Shame. Let me know what's on yours. I'd be fascinated, and it might give me a whole load more to feel bad about. So I'm going to give myself about a year to read these, and then I'll make another video letting you know what I thought. Bye bye.